I said, well, Kathleen, I think I'm going to run to the ocean and jump in with the kids. So I made my way to the shoreline, and I ran into my daughter and my daughter-in-law.
We just had a history of doing this, be just like always, and it wasn't just like always.
The Outer Banks is known as a graveyard of the Atlantic. We are pushed out into the ocean just a little bit further than some of our counterparts.
We're such a thin strip of land. We've got water all around us, so that creates different boundaries that come in off the ocean and the sounds. It creates showers and thunderstorms a mile down the road where we're completely sunny. So the weather varies quite a bit here just because we have so much water around us.
We have the vulnerability of the fact that we are an Outer Banks area, which is more susceptible to the dynamics of currents and wind.
The beach here in the Outer Banks is different than the beach in Maine. It's different than the beaches in Florida. It's different than the beaches in Hawaii or California. Even though it might look calm, it still has its hidden dangers.
Our shoreline is north-south. With a north-south beach, a lot of our energy comes directly at the Outer Banks. So whether the swell is easterly, northeasterly, or southeasterly, it's coming right at us, and what comes at us has to go back.
When I started, about the second or third day, there had been a drowning the night before. And that's when it struck me that being a lifeguard in Nags Head, while it was going to be an adventure and a fun adventure, it was also very serious business. And I never forgot that.
A popular destination to more than 30,000 annual visitors seeking relaxation and enjoyment, the town of Nags Head has relied on the dedicated men and women of one organization to patrol more than 11 miles of its dynamic shoreline, keeping visitors and residents safe from the Atlantic Ocean's raw power.
Summer in '98 was a really busy summer here in the Outer Banks and Nags Head in particular. And they had a stretch of a couple weeks where they made hundreds of rescues. And we have a plaque and a flag that's flown over the White House in recognition of all the rescues that were made by Nags Head.
Since 1975, the dedicated men and women of Nags Head Ocean Rescue have stood watch over the town's beaches, upholding a long and storied tradition of service and heroism that both saved and changed lives.
That service was encompassing, protecting people for ocean rescue, and all of the decisions I made in life afterwards were as a direct result of having been working here. It changed my life. I mean, it really did.
It's camaraderie. You don't want to go home at night. I mean, you get tired, but man, you look forward to getting up the next day and going to work.
Go south down the beach road. Nags Head Ocean Rescue is a lifeguard organization. We are here to serve the public.
I'd say the mission of Nags Head Ocean Rescue is to provide a safe beach environment and ocean environment for all of our visitors and locals alike.
Kind of thing. We're doing the best job that we can to keep our public and beachgoers safe and happy and make sure that everybody goes home at the end of the day.
A mission and a tradition built over several decades.
In 1954, we were beginning to see an evolution of visitors. I mean, the roads were getting better. People had a little extra money to travel, to go on vacation. So that evolved into visitation, people coming to the Outer Banks. The void that we saw at that point was there was a lack of any kind of medical support or any kind of ocean rescue capability. In 1956, George Richardson, he rented beach chairs and beach umbrellas to the developing hotels and motels along the beach. And he provided lifeguards and rental operation at those specific locations. He didn't have a patrol, a beach patrol or medical assistance, anything of that nature. In 1975, I met a gentleman by the name of Herb Dugro, and he approached me about a job in Nags Head as a police officer. That was the only formal department they had, was the police department. Lo and behold, I was accepted and started down here as a police officer in One of the avenues he wanted me to look at was improving our rescue operations or our medical capabilities within the town. So at that time, they had a Suburban, and myself and another individual were lifeguards, and we patrolled the beach when we were 2 men in a truck. And then we expanded that. We had another Suburban, and we put one lifeguard in that Suburban and myself in another Suburban with jet skis.
So who's confident with their starts?
Patrolling 11 miles of beach with limited resources, Nags Head Ocean Rescue became early innovators to meet the growing demands and challenges of ocean rescue.
I went to a conference, this must have been like 2006, and there was a presentation by one of the guys from Hawaii about PWC rescue tools. He cited Nags Head Ocean Rescue as one of the first agencies back in the mid-70s to start using the jet ski as a rescue tool, so he was an innovator in that way.
I had been using a jet ski on the recreational side, and I thought, well, what better way to improve our rescue service is to apply that to a water rescue operation. It was very useful. I said, well, where was the Coast Guard? Well, the Coast Guard capabilities were there, but they were an hour away. So we had to be able to respond to the problem and solve it quickly. And that's where the jet ski came in. We were the first life-saving service, beach patrol, to use a jet ski in our daily operations. The homes along the beachfront were growing, so we had more people. Now, the solution to all that is to try to cover as much ground as you can with a trained individual. And we went to the ATVs.
When I started in 1983, we had 3 lifeguards, and we patrolled the length of the town. We worked from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. You know, we were spread thin over 12 miles of beach. You had a lot of responsibility.
At that time, there were no red flags, so we were just responding to a specific call. I think after so many rescues, you begin to realize, hey, there's got to be a way to do this, a better way to do this.
Take the flags off, like level out.
Red flags were not something new for the swimming population. They were new for Dare County, recognizing that the populations were getting to the point where we were being overwhelmed. Then let's have some way of notifying the people proactively that it's a bad time to be in the water. So we instituted the red flag system in Nags Head.
All right, when you check for a pulse, you're checking for the carotid pulse, you find it.
When we moved over to the fire department in 1985, things began to really grow fast. We went from 3 people to about 12, I think, or so. And every year it continued to grow, but the town grew. The town really started taking off. The numbers and the varieties of situations multiplied exponentially.
All right, so you gave your 5 rescue breaths.
That's where we started to increase the number of ATVs and identifying populated areas because the towns were beginning to identify public access points. So ultimately, when I left, we had 4 bikes on the beach and I think 5 stands. So with a total of, I think I hired at the end maybe 20, 22, 25 people for the season.
From what we were doing in the early 80s to what Nags Head is doing now is just leaps and bounds, light years ahead. And I take a lot of pride in the fact that I was a part of it a long time ago, but I'm also proud of what they've become.
With any organization, you're continuing trying to evolve and update to best practices. Our staff size has grown. We have 26 people a day working on the beach. So we have 15 fixed lifeguard stands, 8 ATVs on patrol, and 3 pickup trucks a day. So typically they kind of work in small teams. There'll be 2 or 3 lifeguard stands with a ATV that they rotate out with, and then a supervisor that overlaps usually 2 zones.
Every year, from Memorial Day to mid-October, Nags Head Ocean Rescue patrols the town's beaches, working to alert and protect tens of thousands of beachgoers annually from dangerous ocean conditions and beach hazards, the most deadly of which are rip currents.
It was a nice, sunny Labor Day Monday.
It's beautiful.
When we had all swam out, eventually I started to get a little bit tired and thought, okay, it's probably about time to start heading back. And everything just changed. The waves seemed bigger, the current was stronger, and it was nothing like it had been 20 minutes earlier. And that's when my brother-in-law, Zach, started panicking. And all of a sudden, everybody else was on their way back, and it was me and him. We were being taken farther and farther out.
I wanted to go back, and I realized I couldn't make any progress going back. So I just started swimming down the beach. And it took me a while, but eventually I made it back to the beach. And then I ran up back to where my family was, and I ran into my oldest brother, Camden, who was just getting out of the water, and he seemed kind of exhausted, and he was like, whoa, that was a little intense. And I was like, yes, but Zach is drowning. Like, Zach and Ken are still out there.
I couldn't really swim any one direction. We were just treading water, trying to stay up. Zach would keep trying to yell for help, and I was trying to tell him not to, because when he was yelling, water would wash into his mouth and he would be gagging and stuff. And I was, under the impression that help would be on the way, that we didn't need to yell for help. I could see that we were going farther and farther away from the shore, and obviously couldn't stand. I was physically just getting really tired, where I could tell I can't do this much longer.
So we were on the beach with our granddaughter, and I said, well, Kathleen, I think I'm gonna run to the ocean and jump in with the kids. So I made my way to the shoreline, and I ran into my daughter and my daughter-in-law.
And they were just there looking out, and they were crying. And they said, we think Kent and Zach are gonna drown. So he very quickly yelled at me as loudly as he could, Kathleen, get help now.
Rip currents account for over 80% of water rescues in the country.
So you can kind of envision a treadmill of water going out, and that's what they are. You do not want to fight the rip current. As it pulls you out, if you fight it, that's where you become exhausted.
It was just that helpless feeling that you're just trying to make it one breath between each wave. And that's when I started to feel like this could be it.
And I just yelled, lifeguard, get a lifeguard. Person to person yelled all the way down the beach, lifeguard, lifeguard, lifeguard. Meanwhile, I called 911, and I just stared out there and I was just praying.
I just went straight back in because I knew they were in trouble, and I didn't know what else to do, but I had to do something. And in my head, I'm thinking, they just don't know to stop fighting it directly. So I just have to get there and explain to them that we have to swim parallel to the shoreline and swim down.
Yeah, my thought was, I can't swim a direction. I'm just trying to stay up.
Once I got there, Zach was already not capable of keeping himself afloat. So I locked arms with both of them and was just kicking to try to help keep them up. After a little bit of that, I started to have the same thought of him as, we might actually die here, and I don't know how much longer I can stay here and keep myself above the water.
The reality was setting in that this could be a day that would change our lives forever. And in some ways, it was a day that changed our lives forever. I think it did have an impact, but thankfully not to the extremity that I was feeling.
I remember seeing the truck coming down the beach, and then the lifeguard jumping in and starting to come out to us and just feeling so relieved. Just before that, I was thinking about how this could be the end. My wife and my baby daughter are back on the beach and we're gonna drown. I went from losing hope to knowing that I was gonna be back with my family again. When we got back to the beach, they immediately started loading Zach into the truck to take him to the hospital.
My daughter said, "He's going to be okay." He made a joke right before they drove away.
I think me and the lifeguard kind of lingered for just a second, and I was like, thank you, like we were gonna die out there. And I remember their response just being like so chill, they didn't even like think anything of it. They were like, yeah, it's good, bro. Like, just at work.
Nags Head lifeguards are prepared both mentally and physically to tackle the most extreme conditions. They're required to think on their feet and be ready at a moment's notice. Every second makes a difference.
I think in general, all lifeguards need to be physically fit. I think there's a difference on the Outer Banks and with an ocean environment that requires a higher level of fitness. It requires a little bit more endurance, a little bit more strength, and the ability to go just a little bit further.
I commonly come down here during the surfing competitions because I had started into an obsession with shooting breaking waves, and that week there had been a huge storm off the coast. That Friday was the first day that the surfing competition was starting, and so I came onto the pier and I was impressed by the size of the waves and just the amount of white water. It was just a sea of white everywhere.
The conditions were dangerous. It was like it was just a different world out there.
So I was wandering up and down the pier when I looked down below me at one point and noticed two men in the water. And then I noticed that one of the men had one of the orange flotation devices. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is a rescue in progress. What I saw was terrifying because I could tell that Austin was doing a really good job of maintaining eye contact with the man. That was the first thing that really caught my eye.
When approaching your victim, you want to instill in them a confidence. Let them know that staying calm is the #1 thing that they can do.
It didn't look like he was panicking at all, and I really thought that it looked like Austin was doing an incredible job of keeping this man calm. These mountains of white water were just coming and just slamming down on them, and they would disappear from my sight for a while, and I didn't know where they were gonna pop up again. And I would find them and continue shooting when they would pop up. And this happened repeatedly, where they were just going under and over and over and over again. But I really hoped that I was not capturing the last moments of this man's life. I was terrified for him, and I just didn't know how much more of that he could endure.
A good lifeguard is familiar and comfortable in the water and can remain calm. But above and beyond that, I think a good lifeguard is a people person, is able to talk to people and listen to people and hear their concerns and convey information to people in a clear and concise way. This is a people business, and that our product is service.
It all seemed to happen so fast, and so I just shot during the entire duration of that rescue. Then suddenly I saw a young surfer coming with a surfboard, and I saw him approach, and then a conversation ensued between Austin and this young surfer. They managed to get the man onto the surfboard together, and then another surfer with another surfboard showed up.
Two surfers were taking the rip out and lended their surfboard and assisted in the rescue.
And then I continued to shoot as they got the man onto the beach, where there was already emergency personnel waiting.
The situation was calm at that point.
So I was so impressed with what I witnessed, and how often does somebody get to watch a lifeguard, in action, saving a life, and it was very impressive that he was able to keep everybody so calm and to be strategic about the way that it all ended.
On behalf of the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Commandant takes great pleasure in awarding the Silver Life-Saving Medal to Austin Fallon, Nags Head Ocean Rescue.
Lifeguarding is both a taxing and rewarding job. While there are many enjoyable aspects to the position, there is also a heavy responsibility on the individual and their team. It requires a certain type of person to take on the challenges and risks involved in their day-to-day work.
I think there's a few different traits that come with wanting to be an ocean lifeguard. I think that's confidence. I think that's being driven, and I think it's a duty of responsibility. A large part that keeps bringing me back year after year is the community outreach. I really enjoy interacting with the locals and the visitors. I really enjoy teaching someone who may not know anything about the ocean, just something that they can keep with them, that I have made some sort of impact on their lives.
The lifeguards at Nags Head Ocean Rescue have a long history of educating visitors and citizens on some of the dangers beachgoers may face.
The ocean itself has risks to be in it. It's not a pool, it's not a lake. It doesn't mean not to be in there, but there are some risks. It is an ocean. There are hazards to be aware of.
Our number one danger is going to be a rip current. Rip currents are fast-flowing channels of water that are cut between sandbars.
You want to swim parallel to the shore. Once you're out of that channel, it's very, very narrow. You can easily come back in.
Shore break is one of those things where you see nice waves and they hit the sandbar and they break offshore. As the tide rises, some of those swells come all the way to the beach and break right on the beach. So that can be a danger. You see a lot of traumatic injuries from that, so spinal injuries, even I've seen broken femurs and stuff where people get picked up and slammed kind of on the dry sand.
We have offshore winds. That's going to be winds that are blowing from the west, maybe southwest, or a little bit south. So they're going to be blowing you off the shore.
Inflatables are easily blown out to sea, and that happens just like that. Before you even know it, you're 100 yards out, and swimming back in with the inflatable, it's near impossible without fins.
So we want to make sure we're going to keep those floats and rafts pretty close to shore, especially on west wind days.
Another thing that's become big that we've been advising people about is digging holes on the beach. People die every year around the country from sand hole collapses. No more than knee deep of the smallest person in your group. Fill it in when you leave. Don't leave holes unattended.
There are many elements to be cautious of when spending time at the beach. One direct indication of ocean dangers to be aware of are the beach warning flags.
Yellow flag is going to be moderate conditions. Going in the water is not recommended for all people. A red flag for us is going to be swimming is not advised. We recommend you don't go in the water. Double red flag, it's going to be illegal for anybody to go in the water.
It's best to stay in the know, and the best way to do that is to sign up for the text alerts.
Dare County has this program called Love the Beach, Respect the Ocean. They post the National Weather Service rip current forecasts.
In addition to checking the forecast, swim at a lifeguarded beach like we have here in Nags Head. They're there to help you, not just to save you, but they are the experts at the beach. So as you're walking by the stand, talk to them.
We love it when visitors ask us questions. We have big advisory boards on the back of all of our lifeguard stands and ATVs. When you read those and you ask us questions, that helps us help you.
You know, we kind of try to preach to our staff that prevention should be your number one priority, trying to educate people and prevent things from happening.
We trained at such a high level that we have the skills to help you, but we hope that we never have to get to that point. We hope that we were able to give you the information to stay safe on our beaches.
One of the things I like most about the job is that I got to stay fit and active in order to do the job well, and then being able to use those physical attributes in order to make a difference in somebody's life is kind of what drew me to the job, I guess.
As an advanced USLA certified organization, we are required to perform a 500-meter swim test as well as a mile run test.
We do a week of medical training. That's usually our first week. And we do emergency medical responder. It's a step above first aid, and it's a step below your EMTs, so somewhere in between. They do a written test and a practical exam at the end of that week.
Beginning of our second week, we do a lot of our open water skills. We test on paddleboard training with buoys and fins, a lot of our equipment that is going to be on our day-to-day rescue basis.
We operate vehicles, so we do some vehicle training. They go through a Safe Rider ATV course every year before they're allowed to operate any of that equipment.
Along with that, every month we have our in-service training. These are important to continue to hone our craft.
Anytime you get a group of people that work together daily, you begin to feel like that you become their brother or their sister. It becomes a family. To be in with that guy that you sit in the stand with for 8 hours a day, and you talk about God only knows what. And that person is somebody that you depend on
Building teamwork between all of us lifeguards is important because we are all working so intensely together. We're working together in some of the most difficult conditions. We need to know how to trust each other.
Camaraderie was at the forefront of everything that we did. Like, you weren't going to a rescue alone. Like, someone's got your back.
For over a half of a century, the lifeguards at Nags Head Ocean Rescue have been serving the town and its visitors, forging and building upon a life-saving legacy founded in innovation, outreach, and teamwork.
I think some of the most rewarding things is when you make a difference in somebody's life and they're able to go home and have dinner with their family and stuff at the end of the day.
We so appreciate all the investment of training and being ready. And we really appreciate that you did it that day so quickly, so expertly. Now we just have a story of survival to tell and not a traumatic story of loss. And I am so thankful for that.
Nags Head Ocean Rescue is doing incredibly heroic things on a daily basis, and we don't always get to witness that. It's just reassuring to me as a local to know that they're out here patrolling our beaches.
You're a part of something that's bigger than yourself, with years of tradition and experience and people. It was just awesome to be a part of.
I feel blessed to be part of it and have the job I do. I mean, it's an awesome job. It's a privilege to live here in the Outer Banks and do the job I do, and it wouldn't be possible without all the people that come and visit here every year.
I think that the Nags Head Ocean Rescue is a service that Nags Head and the whole Outer Banks can be proud of.